Alright, so this section of Chapter 11 is going to be dealing with some of the different tools that are available within Windows to help you either troubleshoot issues or set up some type of preventative maintenance or something like that. So the first one we're going to look at is called System Configuration, also known as msconfig, because that's just the command to open it. Okay, so you can get to this by going to Start, typing msconfig on Windows 7, press Windows X, and then select msconfig on Windows 8. So this is the basic view whenever it comes up. Okay, you got several tabs here that you can see. The General tab is going to basically tell you whether or not you're a normal startup or selective startup. Okay, those are generally the two options that are going to be chosen. Okay, then you got boot, and then services, startup, and tools. So here's the one from my Windows 7 computer. Okay, so when you go to boot, this is more kind of for informational purposes. You can't do a whole lot from here because you're not in the actual bootloader or anything like that. You can choose to go ahead and boot up in safe mode. You can choose the timeout on here, but this is where if you have a dual boot system, it would lay it out for you pretty well. Okay, then you have the Services tab, which is going to show you basically all the services on your computer, whether or not they're running or stopped. And then you can actually choose right here on whether or not you want them to start up on start when the computer starts. Okay, and then you also have Startup. This is where you'll probably end up spending majority of your time with this utility. Okay, so here's the startup item, and then you got the manufacturer. The command is going to be where it's located. Okay, so this is all great informational for you, because you can actually look and see, okay, this is where it's located, and it may give you a little bit more insight into what it actually is. So you can see on here I got tons of stuff starting up when this computer starts. So this is a great opportunity to go through and kind of clean this up. Okay, so like for instance, I don't need VMware Workstation to start whenever the computer starts. I can just open that whenever I want to. Same thing with QuickTime, with RealPlayer, with Apple Push. Let's see what else. Office 2010. I don't need those to start whenever my computer starts. Okay, if I want any of those to open, I can just open up the application. Okay, some of this stuff may be kind of hard to tell what it is. So you can see like here, HD Audio CPL. You can go over here and see if that gives you any more insight. Okay, this is a VDEC, so that doesn't really help. But like right here, Intel, you can see, okay, that's a Intel management engine. Okay, so that's probably dealing with the chipset or something like that, so I need to leave that alone. HP status alerts, okay, that's going to be for my printer. Don't really need that. The HD application, that's like your software updates. You don't need that either. You can check on that periodically. Adobe, there's no reason to start Adobe when the computer boots up. Java, that one you might want to keep up there, but the rest of this stuff, so you can see I've eliminated quite a few from starting up, and then once I'm finished, all I have to do is just click apply, and then once you click OK, here in a minute I'll show you, it pops up with a message and stuff like that. But the last tab is going to be your tools, and this is just a good like one-stop shop for what all you have on your computer. Okay, so if you want to open something like the Task Manager, you select it, you click Launch, and then as you can see here, it just pops up. Okay, so all majority of the tools that are available for you are right here in this location as well. Okay, so back to the startup. Now when I click OK, it's going to pop up with an error or a message stating that I need to restart, and you can choose right then to go ahead and restart or to finish exiting without restarting. Okay, so obviously I'm going to choose to exit without restarting. But now once I restart the computer, there's going to be a message that pops up that states that you've made changes to your system configuration. Just click the little box that says do not display this again and click OK. That's all it is. It's just an informational piece. Okay, so we looked at all those. Okay, the next little tool we're looking at is the Services console. Okay, so this is where you can go in again and look at the different services that are running in the background on your computer. Okay, you can get to this in several different ways. You can type services.msc in the search box or in the start menu or something like that. You can also get to it from that system configuration where you're just at. If you click services and launch, that'll open it as well. It's also located in computer management or in the administrative tools in the control panel. Okay, so there's several different places that you can actually look at it. And I'll open one up here in a second. But there's a couple things you need to kind of keep in mind when you're looking at services. Okay, the different services that are listed are going to be either running on your system or disabled. Okay, they've got basically a couple different types or startup types that are available on there. So you've got automatic, delayed start, which basically means that can be used for troubleshooting. If you think a specific service is causing you issues, you can set it to automatic delayed start. And that means when the computer boots up, it's going to wait a short period, usually like a minute or two, or maybe 30 seconds, and then that service will start. So if your computer boots up fine and then you see that it fails or it blue screens or something, you know that that service is the one that's causing issues. Okay, then you have automatic is just going to start up whenever Windows starts up. Manual, you have to actually manually go in and start that service up whenever you need it. Okay, and then disable just completely turns that service off. Okay, so this is our services window. As you can see in here, you got several of them listed. Okay, and they have the name over here, and then it has a description. Okay, this description is very useful because let's face it, some of these services you have no clue what they do. So it's good to know what kind of what this service does and what effect it has on your system. So the one I usually pick on is Print Spooler, just because that's probably the one that you're going to spend the most time with because of troubleshooting and everything like that. So if I open up, double click on Print Spooler, this brings up the properties for it. Okay, so as you can kind of see just from the general tab, you get the same type of information that you would just looking at the window. You get the actual service name, you get the display name, the description, you get the status, okay, which is right here. You get the startup type right here, and then the next one is on the next tab. But here is where you can change that startup type if you want to. Okay, the delayed start, automatic, manual, or disabled. Okay, now if you needed for some reason to stop or restart a service, this is where you could do this as well. Okay, you can select stop. It's going to go in and stop that service and then start. Okay, that's an effective way of restarting. If you don't want to do that, you can also right click on the service and you can select it here as well. Okay, so that's another option. Okay, the next tab is going to be your log on tab. Now most services are going to be logged on as local system account. This is one of those areas that you don't really want to mess with, okay, because even if you are an administrator on your system, administrators do not have as much privilege as the OS. Okay, so if you go in there and change it to an administrator account, then you may not be having a service start, or it may run into issues because you don't have the same privileges as that system account. Okay, so you generally want to leave these alone. Okay, recovery, this is basically what's going to happen if that service fails. Okay, on first failure, what do you want to do? And here are the options. You can take no action, restart the service, run a program, or restart the computer. Okay, generally, most services are going to be set to restart the service for the first 2 times. After that, it's up to you. If you do take no action, it's exactly what's going to happen. It's just going to sit there. Okay, if you do run a program, this can be good for troubleshooting. If you want to run like a performance monitor or something like that to see what exactly is going on. Okay, if you select that, then you'll notice it highlights this area here. You select the program that you want to run. Any other commands or anything like that can be put on here. Okay, so that's an option for you. And then the last one, restart the computer. I would definitely do this as a last resort, or if you're pinpointing one service that may be causing you issues. And the reason I say that is because you don't want to be sitting there in the middle of working on something on your computer and you have it set to restart whenever this service fails, and then all of a sudden your computer reboots and you lose all of your stuff. So generally this is going to be for a pinpointing troubleshooting method. Okay, so usually you're going to take no action on here. Okay, and then the last tab are going to be dependencies. So this one is very useful because it allows you to see what services are dependent or what are dependent and what depends on this service. Okay, so as you can see here, this the fax service depends on the print spooler. Okay, well, we don't have a fax machine hooked up to this computer, so that's no big deal. Okay, whereas HTTP and RPC are all they aren't dependent on print spooler, but print spooler is dependent on them. Okay, so what that means is, like, for instance, if I have to restart the print spooler, then I would have to go through here and restart the fax service as well. Okay, so this becomes very important when you're dealing with servers, because there's certain services. For instance, Symantec is really bad about this. When you're running Symantec, either Symantec Backup or their antivirus, if for some reason something locks up and you got to restart a service, there's a long list of dependent services on here that you've got to restart in a certain order in order to get everything back up. Okay, and this is a pain, but it beats having to reboot the server, because servers are meant to stay up almost 100% of the time, so you want to keep them up as much as possible. Okay, so those are the different tabs and the properties of a print spooler, or of a service in general.